3 months. At least 140 people have died, and tens of thousands of families have been displaced. Here in Darfur, 17 years of war that ended in 2020 has made the effects of the floods even worse.
So now we are here, in this very basic shelter. Even plastic sheets we received were not enough. This is all what people can get now, and we don't know what to do.
Darfur's conflict has been called the first climate war, and now there are fears the devastating rains and floods are the consequences of climate change.
This season is different from the past seasons. Our oldest people say that nothing like this happened since the 80s. This year, there is much more rain. In southern Darfur, rain rates this autumn are above the normal rates.
Many here have already been displaced by the years of conflict and were hoping to rebuild their lives. But now that may take longer. Hiba Morgan, Al Jazeera.
Fishermen in Bangladesh say they're struggling to make ends meet and they blame soaring fuel costs. A 50% rise in diesel prices is having a knock-on effect on other essentials. Extreme weather patterns are making the situation worse. One fisherman told Al Jazeera about the hardships he's facing.
My name is Kabir Maji. I was born in Rangunia in Chattogram. I'm a sea fisherman and 58 years old, and I've been in this trade for a long time. We typically head for the ocean after buying provision for our trips, but now the prices of essentials have doubled because of high diesel costs. It used to cost us around $1,600 for all expenses for a fishing expedition. Now that's doubled, making it very difficult for us. We now have to journey more than 24 hours to reach the fishing grounds in the sea. Years ago, we could find catches within 2 hours of starting out. But things have changed. Sometimes we are even scared to head to the deep sea because of the nature of the weather, which is now unpredictable. We don't have any compass or navigational tools, but I can predict the mood of the sea and how it will be, including its depth, just by traveling few kilometers. I know all this from experience. I can predict the weather just by looking at the formation of the clouds and the color of the seawater. We can't access news and other information as there is no mobile communication network when we are in the deep sea. Now there is no rain during the monsoon season. Before we could not even fish during the stormy season, but nowadays we can. The weather pattern is completely changed. If we could get a sonar and a GPS navigation tools, then it would be so much easier for us to catch fish in the deep sea. But how can we purchase such type of equipments when we were always struggling to make ends meet? I have to support 12 family members, including my children and grandchildren. I'm the only breadwinner in the family. And sometimes we go through rough time, especially when the fishing trawler breaks down. The government is making the excuse of the Ukraine and the Russian conflict and using it as a pretext to increase the fuel price by 50%. In other words, taxing us unfairly by cutting into our earnings. It is like the big fish eating the small fries, not the other way around. Do you understand me?
Forest fires on Easter Island in the southeastern Pacific have damaged some of its carved stone statues. It took emergency crews 8 hours to control the spread around the UNESCO World Heritage Site. But some of the figures, known as mui, are said to be badly charred. The island has nearly 1,000 of the megaliths, which were carved by the island's Indigenous people more than 500 years ago. A community in the US state of California says it can't trust its own water supply. It's said to have levels or high levels of arsenic. Arsenic is a toxic substance which occurs naturally, but large amounts are often used as an insecticide. Rob Reynolds visited residents who are in desperate need of help.
When farmer Dennis Hudson pumps water from his well in Allensworth, California, he knows there's danger lurking. Even though the water looks clean, it's contaminated with high amounts of arsenic.
The way we feel about the water is it can't be trusted. There are carcinogens in the water. Arsenic is a carcinogen. It will cause cancer. it affixes itself to the fatty tissues in the body.
The toxic substance leaches into the water supply from underground rock formations. The U.S. government says the safe level of arsenic is 10 parts per billion. Hudson's well water has more than 300 parts per billion, and many other wells in the community are similar.
Arsenic is colorless and it's odorless. You can't see it, you can't taste it. In fact, people, before we really realized the extent of the arsenic in our water, there are people who would visit Allensworth and say, wow, this water really tastes good.
Allensworth is an impoverished town of about 600 people, founded by black settlers over 100 years ago. Because people don't trust the safety of their water, many travel to other towns to buy filtered water for cooking and drinking. It's a problem that extends far beyond this small California farming town. Across the United States, it's estimated that 2.1 million people draw their water from wells contaminated with high levels of arsenic. Scientists from the University of California have set up an experimental filtering project on Dennis Hudson's farm.
So the influent groundwater has about 200 parts per billion arsenic. And by the time it reaches the end of our treatment train and we've treated this water, it's coming out consistently below 10 parts per billion.
Similar filtration systems have succeeded in countries with high arsenic concentrations, like India and Bangladesh.
This promises to be one of the lowest, if not the lowest cost ways to reliably remove arsenic from groundwater at a price that local communities can afford.
The researchers hope the equipment can solve arsenic problems in other communities, and Dennis Hudson is praying it will. What would it mean if you could live with clean water?
It would mean the world to this community and to California. It would just mean life, and life abundantly.
Clean water in a time of climate change and droughts more precious than ever. Rob Reynolds, Al Jazeera, Allensworth, California.
And in some news just in, traffic has been shut on the only bridge linking Crimea with Russia after a fuel tanker train caught fire. Video posted online also appears to show major damage to the road section of the Kerch Strait Bridge. It's a major supply route linking the Russian mainland with areas in Ukraine it occupies. One person has died after police fired tear gas at football fans in Argentina. A crowd was attempting to break into a top division game between Gimnasia and Boca Juniors in La Plata. The match was sold out with an estimated 10,000 fans locked outside. Authorities say the fan died of a heart problem while trying to escape the tear gas. Football is slowly gaining popularity in the Philippines, where basketball has long dominated. That's because charitable organisations have introduced the sport to children in impoverished communities. The girls' football team has qualified for the Street Child World Cup, which kicks off in Qatar on Saturday. Barnaby Lowe has the details from Manila.
In any other neighbourhood in the Philippines, this would have been a basketball court. But for years now, British coach and charity worker Roy Moore has been teaching youths here how to play football, not only as a sport, but as a way out of poverty.
It just felt like gradually and really growing things from the grassroots up, it was where we could make the most difference. Not just with football, but with the education, the social and emotional development, the holistic mentoring that we bring here at Fair Play, and being able to, as we call it, level the playing field.
Jasmine Clare grew up in an impoverished area and just started playing football last year. But she's made it into the Payatas Football Club. It's become one of the more competitive teams in the country, and she plans to use this experience to get a college scholarship.
It's one way of showing that I can be good both in sports and in my studies.
Now Jasmine is part of a national team that reached the final of the Street Child World Cup in Brazil in 2014. Football is oddly an elitist sport in the Philippines. It's really only recently that it's becoming mainstream, and it's the women who are leading the way, with the national team qualifying for the Women's World Cup next year, the first time for any Philippine football team. 2022 has been a breakthrough year for the women's national team. They reached the semis of the Women's Asian Cup and won the final against regional powerhouse Thailand at the Southeast Asian Championships.
There's no stigma for the girls to play, and so they have an opportunity to play. And as soon as they join in, as soon as they play, they're challenged against boys, they're challenged against taller, stronger people, and they have to level up quickly. It's just giving them a chance. A lot of countries don't give them that chance.
It's a chance of a lifetime for families like Jasmine's. 4 other siblings are also being coached by Roy. If they do well, they will all have a shot at college football scholarships, an opportunity that their parents never thought was possible. Barnaby Low, Al Jazeera, Manila.
You're watching Al Jazeera. These are the headlines this hour. Traffic has been shut on the only bridge linking Crimea with Russia after a fuel tanker caught fire. Video posted online appears to show major damage to the road section of the Kerch Strait Bridge. It's a major supply route linking the Russian mainland with areas in Ukraine it occupies. Haiti's government is appealing for international armed forces to help with the deteriorating security situation. People have been protesting for weeks after Prime Minister Ariel Henry ended fuel subsidies, pushing up prices. Members of the Organisation of American States say the situation in Haiti is raising concern. Mariana Sanchez is in Lima with more on what they've been saying.
Foreign Minister Jean-Victor Genus made a plea here because he said that the economic situation in Haiti is catastrophic, as he put it. He explained to members of the assembly that gangs are controlling the fuel, or at least one fuel terminal, which is causing great havoc in Haiti because it's affecting the distribution of drinking water, not only that, of transportation and the well-functioning of hospitals that is so dramatic and so important. So he formally asked for assistance for an international police force.
EU leaders have failed to reach a consensus on capping gas prices. European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen has proposed that member states bid for gas supplies together. Prices have been going up since the start of the war in Ukraine. The US has imposed more export controls on Chinese tech companies. 30 firms have been added to a so-called unverified list. The new measures prevent Beijing from accessing advanced US semiconductor technology. Still in the US, and the school district of Uvalde in Texas has suspended its entire police force 5 months after a gunman killed 19 students and 2 teachers. The police department has been under investigation for its slow response to the shooting. All right, those are the headlines. The news continues here on Al Jazeera after risking it all.
Once upon a time, a family fled from monsters and sought asylum in a snowy land. The sisters were so scared of being sent back that they disappeared within themselves. The little boy had a different plan. He would escape to Mars in a ship made of scrap. How will their story end? Witness Wake Up on Mars on Al Jazeera.
This dangerous stunt is a regular sight on a bus in Ivory Coast. Yao sees this as part of his job, assisting the driver of a bajang, the old yellow bus. He checks tickets, loads luggage, but also does these crazy acrobatics. They think that if the passengers get good entertainment, They'll come back and use the bus again. Their balancing act is inspired by a battle dance from the neighborhoods, involving set moves. The driver's assistants only get paid $1.70 per day, but they get the adrenaline rush as extra. Young Ivorians and their energy are part of life in Ivory Coast, which has become the world's leading producer of cocoa, cashew nuts, cotton, and other products. It's become the most prosperous country in West Africa, although the people don't necessarily benefit directly.
Premier ministre est venu là. Ils sont fermés là trop. Ce n'est pas pour Sud.
Just going from one town to another can be a serious challenge. Fatal accidents are common, often involving homemade vehicles.
Si nous voyons souder, couper, couler, c'est parce qu'on n'a pas de moyens pour payer le nouveau.
This popular driver is Yaku, but everyone calls him the Elder. Everyone respects Yaku because he's the only driver here prepared to venture out to the most remote villages.
Mon camion, il essaie de les rendre un peu jolis pour attaquer la route. C'est pas facile.
Yaku's truck needs urgent repairs.